The old house stood on the edge of town, silent and brooding. It had been empty for years, and rumors swirled about it being haunted. Some said that a family had been murdered there, while others said that it was inhabited by a malevolent spirit. One day, a group of teenagers decided to explore the abandoned house. They had heard the rumors, but they didn't believe them. They thought it would be fun to spend a night in the house and see if anything happened. The teenagers arrived at the house late at night. It was dark and silent outside. The house itself was old and decrepit, the paint was peeling, and the windows were boarded up. The teenagers broke into the house through a back door. The inside of the house was dark and dusty. The furniture was covered in sheets, and the smell of mildew hung in the air. The teenagers explored the house room by room. They found nothing out of the ordinary, but they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Finally, they decided to go to bed. They found a bedroom in the attic and spread out sleeping bags on the floor. The teenagers were exhausted from their exploration. The noise was coming from the hallway outside the bedroom door. It sounded like someone was dragging something heavy across the floor. The teenagers were terrified. They huddled together in the corner of the bedroom, listening to the noise. The noise got closer and closer to the bedroom door. The teenagers could feel their hearts pounding in their chests. Suddenly, the bedroom door burst open. A figure stood in the doorway. It was tall and thin, with pale skin and long black hair. Its eyes were glowing red. The teenagers screamed in terror. The figure raised its hand and pointed at them. Then, it let out a blood-curdling scream. The teenagers were so scared that they couldn't move. They just stood there, frozen in fear. The figure opened its mouth and spoke. Its voice was deep and raspy. "Get out of my house," it said. The teenagers turned and ran. They ran down the stairs and out of the house. They didn't stop running until they were safely back in town. The teenagers never went back to the abandoned house. They told their friends and family about what they had seen, but no one believed them. But the teenagers knew what they had seen. They knew that the abandoned house was haunted. And they knew that they would never forget the night they spent there. Years later, one of the teenagers from that night, a young woman named Sarah, was driving home from work one night when she saw the abandoned house. She couldn't help but feel drawn to it. She pulled over to the side of the road and got out of her car. She walked up to the house and hesitated. She knew that she shouldn't go inside, but she couldn't help herself. She took a deep breath and opened the back door. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. The house was dark and silent. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She took a few tentative steps forward. She stopped and listened. She could hear a noise coming from the hallway. It was the same noise that she had heard all those years ago. Sarah was terrified, but she couldn't turn back. She had to know what was making the noise. She slowly made her way down the hallway. The noise got louder and louder. She reached the end of the hallway and saw the bedroom door. It was slightly ajar. Sarah took a deep breath and pushed open the door. She stepped inside. The bedroom was empty, but the noise was still there. It was coming from the closet. Sarah slowly walked over to the closet and opened the door. She gasped in horror. Inside the closet was a figure. It was the same figure that the teenagers had seen all those years ago. The figure was tall and thin, with pale skin and long black hair. Its eyes were glowing red. The figure opened its mouth and spoke. Its voice was deep and raspy. "Hello, Sarah," it said. Sarah was so scared that she couldn't speak. She just stood there, frozen in fear. The figure smiled. It was a cold, cruel smile. "Welcome back," it said.